ಮುರಹರ ನಗಧರ ಮುಕುಂದ ಮಾಧವ ಗರುಡ ಗಮನ ಪಂಕಜನಾಭ ಮುರಹರ ನಗಧರ ಮುಕುಂದ ಮಾಧವ ಗರುಡ ಗಮನ ಪಂಕಜನಾಭ ಪರಮ ಪುರುಷ ಭವಭಂಜನ ಕೇಶವ ನರಮೃಗ ಶರೀರ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಪರಮ ಪುರುಷ ಭವಭಂಜನ ಕೇಶವ ನರಮೃಗ ಶರೀರ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ನಾರಾಯಣತೆ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಭವ ನಾರದ ಸನ್ನುತ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ನಾರಾಯಣತೆ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಭವ ನಾರದ ಸನ್ನುತ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಜಲಧಿಶಯನ ರವಿ ಚಂದ್ರವಿಲೋಚನ ಜಲರುಹ ಭವನುತ ಚರಣಯುಗ ಜಲಧಿಶಯನ ರವಿ ಚಂದ್ರವಿಲೋಚನ ಜಲರುಹ ಭವನುತ ಚರಣಯುಗ ಬಲಿಬಂಧನ ಗೋಪೀ ಜನವಲ್ಲಭ ನಳಿನೋದರತೆ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ನಾರಾಯಣತೆ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಭವ ನಾರದ ಸನ್ನುತ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಶ್ರೀವತ್ಸಲಾಂಛನ ಪೀತಾಂಬರಧರ ಶ್ರೀವತ್ಸಲಾಂಛನ ಪೀತಾಂಬರಧರ ದೇವಕಿ ನಂದನ ದಯಾನಿಧೆ ಗೋವತ್ಸಲಾಂಛನ ಗೋವರ್ಧನೋದ್ಧರ ಗೋಪೀ ಪ್ರಿಯತೆ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ನಾರಾಯಣತೆ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಭವ ನಾರದ ಸನ್ನುತ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಆದಿದೈವ ಸಕಲಾಗಮ ಪೂಜಿತ ಯಾದವ ಕುಲ ಮೋಹನ ರೂಪ ಆದಿದೈವ ಸಕಲಾಗಮ ಪೂಜಿತ ಯಾದವ ಕುಲ ಮೋಹನ ರೂಪ ವೇದೋದ್ಧಾರ ಶ್ರೀ ವೆಂಕಟನಾಯಕ ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ನಾರಾಯಣತೆ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಭವ ನಾರದ ಸನ್ನುತ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ನಾರದ ಸನ್ನುತ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ನಾರದ ಸನ್ನುತ ನಮೋ
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमो भगवते वैवस्वताय मृत्यवे ब्रह्मविद्याचार्याय नचिकेतसे च Humble prostrations to one and all. In this third valli of the first chapter, the main highlight is the metaphor of the chariot. So we are all compared with the travelers in the chariot, seeking a particular destination, and we are trying to reach that destination through this chariot. In this chariot, we have the charioteer as the intellect, chariot as the body, reins as the mind, horses as the sense organs, and the path as the sense objects. And what is the destination? Destination is Paramatma, the Supreme Lord, the ultimate reality. And now through this discussion we come to know that this Paramatma is none other than our own self. So what is this journey all about? This journey is all about knowing oneself. So in which direction is this journey directed to? So we come to know this journey is not outward, not some spatial travel, but this journey is inward. So from the grosser levels of our personality, we keep moving inside, we go within ourselves into the subtler levels of our personality, and the subtlest essence in our personality is the Supreme Self, which is of the nature of Satchidananda. Reaching this is considered to be the ultimate purpose of life. What are the preparations necessary? So earlier it is said, the one who has a right knowledge, he will have control over the mind and the senses, and such a person alone can go within. So the whole responsibility of taking the chariot to the destination, the responsibility belongs to the charioteer, the intellect. So knowledge is the most important thing. So with this prepared intellect, we go within. So what is this journey of going within? Yached vang manasi prajnah tad yached jnana atmani. Silence the sense organs and merge it in the mind. Make the mind silent and let it cooperate with the intellect. Merge this intellect with Mahat Tattva and merge this Mahat Tattva in Shanta Atma, in the Supreme Self. So this is what is being said here. Very many times people say that Swamiji, meditation is difficult. This technique of witnessing which you have mentioned, it is difficult because I don't know what to witness, because I don't see anything to be witnessed. So you say witness, witness, witness. You say witness the thoughts, etc. I am finding it difficult. So why is it that we find it difficult? We find it difficult because that is not the first step. Observing the mind is not the first step. What is the first step? Purification of mind is the first step. That is why this line is very important. Jnanam atmani mahati niyachet. Merge the mind intellect in Mahat Tattva. If that is not done, what happens? If that is not done, purification of mind will not happen. And if purification does not happen, then witnessing the mind will not happen. For witnessing the mind, the necessary condition is purification of mind. It is exactly like if you want to bend an iron rod, you will have to heat it red. That red hot iron we can easily bend. But suppose without doing it, if you try to bend it, it will be very difficult. In the same way here also. First, purify the mind. And purification of mind happens when we fill our heart with devotion and noble virtues. Devotion unto the Lord. This purifies the heart. And once this purification happens, very clearly we see the witnessing consciousness different from the mind. So, through this witnessing consciousness, we can witness the mind, or put in another words, we can shift our attention to this witnessing consciousness, which we clearly experience as something different from the egoistic personality, something different from the thoughts in the mind. So, purification is essential. So, we have discussed this point earlier also. It is something like, pole vault game. So, that pole vaulter, he runs fast, he places the pole, and then as the pole straightens up, he climbs the pole, and by the time the pole has reached the perpendicular to the ground, by the time he has reached the top of that pole, and finally he leaves the pole. So, leaving the pole is not the first step. First step is climbing the pole. And what is this pole? It is nothing but the mind. So, climbing the pole means raising ourselves from tamas to rajas to sattva. Conversion of the mind into a sattvic mind is called climbing the pole. And once the mind has been made sattvic, the last step is dropping the pole. Dropping the pole means dropping the mind. Dropping the mind means witnessing the mind. And what happens when the mind is witnessed? Mind becomes absolutely silent. In that silence, we clearly perceive the presence of this witnessing consciousness as Sat Chit Anand. Practice of this again and again is what constitute Nididhyasanam. So in this Nididhyasanam, we practice abidance. How long? Till this becomes our nature, we keep on practicing. Till it becomes effortless, we keep on practicing. So this is the essence of Nididhyasanam. So that Nididhyasanam is Tad Yachet Shanta Atmani. And once that is done, that person is called liberated person. Liberated from the identification with BMI. Liberated from ignorance. Liberated from birth and death cycle. So one who has known himself as pure consciousness, such a person is called liberated. So therefore the Shruti Mata says, Uttishtata Jagrata, this is the very purpose of life. So wake up, realize this mistake that you are not making use of this human body properly. The purpose of human birth is only for one to gain this ultimate reality. So therefore, Uttishtata, wake up. Jagrata, be alert. Put forth effort in this direction and gain this knowledge. And approach the wise masters, the great teachers, Prapya Varan Nibodhata. Because they are the ones who have reached there, they are the ones who can correctly guide us. Because the path is difficult, the path is dangerous. How dangerous it is? Kshurasya dhara nishita duratya, just like walking a razor's edge which is sharpened. It is as dangerous and difficult as that. So yesterday we were seeing this path is subtle, therefore just like balancing on the razor's edge is difficult, grasping the subtle truth is difficult. So what happens when we are not able to balance on that razor edge? We fall down. So in the same way, when we are not able to grasp that subtle truth, we will not be able to experience the bliss of the self. Then what happens to the mind? Mind gets automatically attracted to the pleasure of the senses. Now this is a point which we have to keep in mind. Because throughout sadhana we have kept this mind and the senses under control. Senses are prevented from indulging in sense pleasures. So if we are not giving Atmananda, the bliss of the self, naturally the senses will experience a kind of suppression, because you are not giving the Vishyananda. On the other side, you are not able to access the Atmananda. This leads to suppression. Mind is neither getting Vishyananda nor getting Atmananda. Then what will happen? Suppression leads to what you call as, the senses crave for sense pleasures. And there is all the possibility of our downfall. Downfall means with intense craving, we tend to indulge in pleasures because of suppression. Greater we try to prevent the senses from indulging in pleasures, greater will be the craving in the senses to indulge in pleasures. Now this is a point to be noted. Exactly like a person who is hungry. Especially during upavas, while fasting, we observe this. When we fast, when we are not giving food to ourselves, at that time, the desire to eat food becomes intense. The craving for food becomes intense. Now, this is the nature of the senses. The more you try to prevent it from indulgence, the more the craving will increase. So, while walking this path, on one side, the senses are not allowed to indulge, therefore there is intense craving. On the other side, we are not able to grasp the truth, therefore we are cheated from experiencing the bliss of the divine. So what happens? The pull of the senses are very strong, so there is all the possibility we may fall down and drown in sense pleasures. So that is why it is difficult. Now, even if we manage to balance on this razor's edge, there is a possibility that we may get cut, we may get injured because of the sharp edge, even if we balance on it. So what does it signify? What it signifies is, even if we are succeeding in the spiritual path, there is a danger of ego. Somewhere deep down I feel that because of my effort, I attained this. This is called ego. The truth is, it is only because of the grace and blessings of the Lord that we are able to progress in spirituality. Instead of giving credit to the Lord, we tended to pocket the credit. This pocketing the credit is what fattens the ego. So we have to be very careful as we progress. Let all the credit be given to God from the depth of our heart. Let us know that this progress is possible only because of grace of God. Let us know that this inspiration to put forth effort also comes from God. Success also comes from God. In this way, if you remain humble and down to earth, progress is easy. So the difficulty of this path, it is difficult and it is dangerous, but with devotion it becomes easy. So in order to point out this difficulty, we have this next verse. Let us chant the next verse, verse number 15, page number 181. अशब्दमस्पर्शमरूपमव्ययम् तथा रसं नित्यमगन्धवच्च यत् अनाद्यनन्तं महतः परं ध्रुवं निचायतन्मृत्युमुखात् प्रमुच्यते अशब्दमस्पर्शमरूपमव्ययम् तथा रसं नित्यमगन्धवच्च यत् अनाद्यनन्तं महतः परं ध्रुवं निचायतन्मृत्युमुखात् प्रमुच्यते. Yes. So this great truth, it's very, very subtle, and that is why all this difficulty. So, why is it subtle? Why is it sukshma? So it is said, this ultimate truth is ashabdam, without sound, asparsham, without touch, arupam, without form, avyayam, imperishable, tatha arasam, without taste, nityam, eternal, agandham, without smell, anadi, beginningless, anantam, endless, mahataf param, higher than mahat, mahat tattva, dhruvam, changeless, nichaya, knowing this way, mrityu mukhat pramuchyate, a person is free from the jaws of death. So what is being said here? This ultimate truth, this supreme self is difficult to know. Durgamam, Durgam patha, it was said earlier. Very difficult path. Why is it difficult? It is difficult because it is subtle. Why is it subtle? Because it has no shabda sparsha rupa rasa gandha. To the extent a thing becomes subtle, to that extent properties become less. So this point we have discussed earlier also. The earth has all the five shabda sparsha rupa rasa gandha. Water has only four shabda sparsha rupa rasa. Fire has only shabda sparsha rupa. Air has only shabda sparsha, and space has only shabda. So as the properties become less, that thing becomes subtler and subtler. So compared to earth, the space is very, very, very subtle because it has only one property. Earth has got five properties. So then, space itself has only one property. Subtler than space is mind, subtler than mind is intellect, subtler than intellect is Mahat tattva, subtler than Mahat tattva is avyakta, subtler than avyakta is the self. Then what to talk of the subtlety of that supreme self? That is the point. That is why it is difficult. And now, here we have some few terms here. Now we will see these terms. Nityam is a term used here. Avyayam is another term. So what is avyayam? Avyayam means imperishable. Now, Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji makes certain statements here. They are the eternal laws of nature. What is it? Yat hi shabdadimat tat vyeti. What perishes? So the law is any entity which has a property will perish. Now this is a law. Now these laws are all important in the analysis of Vedantic statements, in the analysis of the mantras of the Upanishads. So let us keep these laws in mind. So one law is anything that has property will perish. So therefore, anything which has no properties will not perish. It will be imperishable. So what is the nature of this self? It has no property. Shabda sparsha rupa rasa gandha is not there. It has absolutely no property. So therefore, it is imperishable. Avyayam. And because it is imperishable, it is Nityam. So anything which is imperishable has to be eternal. See the connection. This can be called another law. That which is imperishable has to be eternal. So anything that has property will perish. A thing which has no property will be imperishable, and anything which is imperishable will be eternal. So that which is avyayam always should be nityam. They go together. Yes. Now what is the next term? Anadi. Anadi means, really speaking, it means beginningless, but here Bhagavan Shankaracharya gives a different meaning. Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, avidyamanaha karanam asya tad idam anadi. So that which has no adi. So adi means what? Karanam, cause. So that which has no cause is called anadi. Now this is a very unique definition and a beautiful definition also. That which has no cause, karanam, is called anadi. So here adi means cause. Now here another law is mentioned. Yad hi adimat tat karyatvat anityam. Any entity that has a cause, any entity that has a cause implies that this entity has become the effect, karyam, and therefore any entity that has a cause will be perishable. This is the law, and therefore cannot be eternal. That which has a cause has to be perishable, cannot be eternal. So therefore what is the law? An entity which has no cause will be imperishable and eternal. An entity which has no cause will be imperishable and hence eternal. Now because this Supreme Self is anadi, so it will be imperishable and eternal. See, what was the earlier law? An entity which has no properties will be imperishable and eternal. Because Self has no properties, it is imperishable and eternal. What is the second one? That entity which has no cause has to be imperishable and eternal. Because the Supreme Self has no cause. No cause means what? It has not come from anything. That is the meaning. It has not become the effect of something. This is the meaning. So therefore, the Supreme Self is imperishable and eternal. Now see the next one. Anadi Anantam. Anantam means actually endless. But here Bhagavan Shankaracharya gives another meaning. What does Bhagavan say? Avidyamanaha antaha karyam asya tad anantam. Antam means karyam, effect. That which comes in the end is called effect. So antam means karyam. So anantam means that which has not become an effect. Anantam. That which does not become an effect is called anantam. So now another law. What is the law? Anything that becomes an effect will be perishable. Anything that becomes an effect will be perishable. So therefore, anything that does not become in effect will be imperishable and therefore eternal. And because the Self has not become the effect, it is imperishable and eternal. So what is the first law? The first law is anything that which has a property will be perishable. The second law is anything that has a cause will be perishable. And here Bhagavan Shankaracharya says it will perish and go back into the cause. It will perish and go back into the cause. To understand, let us take the example of mud pot. So this pot, what is the cause of this pot? Mud is the cause. So pot is the effect, mud is the cause. So what happens when the pot breaks? When the pot breaks, it goes back into the mud. So anything that has a cause is perishable, and once it perishes, it goes back to the cause. This is the law. In the same way, what is the third law? Anything that becomes an effect is perishable. So it perishes and becomes the effect. This is the law. So now putting all the three, what can we say? The self is imperishable and eternal because it has no properties. The self is imperishable and eternal because it has no cause. Self is imperishable and eternal because it has no effect. So through all means, we come to this conclusion: it is imperishable, it is eternal. Right. Now, a question may come. The question is, you say that Brahman, the Supreme Self, this pure consciousness, has not become the cause. Nothing has come out of it. It has not come from anything, nothing has come out of it. This is what you say. But then, very many times in the scriptures themselves, we see such lines. Yato va imani bhutani jayante, etc. The whole world has come from that Brahman. Brahman is the cause, world is the effect. Such lines we see. Now here you say that Brahman, nothing has come out of Brahman. But there are scriptural statements which says that the whole world has come out of that ultimate truth. So that means the truth has become the cause and the world has become the effect. So which means that Brahman has to be perishable because something has come out of it. So here the answer given by Vedanta is no. Nothing has come out of Brahman. It is only an illusory appearance on Brahman. The world is nothing but an illusory appearance. Nothing has come out. Brahman has not transformed to become the world. No. World is only an illusory appearance on Brahman, exactly like the illusory appearance of snake upon the rope. So we can't say that the rope has transformed itself to become the snake. No, nothing has happened to rope. But still we say the cause of that snake is rope, because it is because of the rope that there is this illusory appearance of snake. The presence of rope has created that snake illusion. Therefore we use the term cause, not because the rope has become transformed into snake. So since it is only an illusory appearance, so therefore this definition will not hold good there. So whenever we say cause effect, what we mean is cause transforming itself into effect, not an illusory appearance on cause as seen as effect. So this has to be understood. Because it is only an illusory appearance, so therefore we have to say that Brahman has not transformed itself to become the world. It is only an illusory appearance, and therefore Brahman remains imperishable and eternal. This is the way we have to understand. Now one more term is used, Dhruvam. Now Dhruvam means that which is changeless, that which is eternal. Now a question may come, when already Nityam is used, why should we use another term called Dhruvam? Because both mean the same. So therefore we have to understand. Nityam means eternal, but there are two types of Nityam. There are two types of eternity. What are they? One is Parinami Nityam, the other is Kutastha Nityam. There is a changingly eternal, there is unchangingly eternal. What does it mean? So eternity can be of two types, changing eternity, unchanging eternity. So can we give an example of changing eternity? Yes, like the flow of the river. River is changeless, it is eternal, it is all the time flowing, but changes are happening in it. There is modification, water is flowing, the same water is not the one which is flowing. Water is continuously changing, so it is called as Parinami Nityatvam. Parinama is there, change is there, modification is there. Another example is the body. Body is there for 60-70 years, but a lot of changes are happening in the body. It is not the same body all the time. Or this world, the world is there for so many millions and billions of years, yes, but changes are continuously happening in this world. So they are all the example of Parinami Nityam. So here Dhruvam term means this Brahman, this consciousness is not Parinami Nityam, it is Kutastha Nityam, meaning it is changeless and no modification happens in it. That's why the term Dhruvam is used. It is unchangingly eternal. That's why the term Dhruvam. Right. And another term used is Mahatah Param, higher than Mahat. Param means higher. Now this term we have thoroughly discussed earlier. So what is the definition in spirituality about this Param? One entity higher than the other. So we have discussed this. There are 5 standards used to ensure which one is higher. So what are the 5 definitions? Sukshmatvat, Mahatvat, Pratyagatmatvat, Karanatvat, Niyamakatvat. This we have analyzed in the previous verse, where we try to prove that sense objects are higher than the sense organs, mind is higher than the sense objects, intellect is higher. So how did we prove it is higher? Using these definitions. So Mahatah Param means that which is higher than Mahat Tattva. In what all ways this pure consciousness is higher? Sukshmatvat. It is subtler than Mahat Tattva, the Hiranyagarbha, the totality of mind intellect. Mahatvat, because of its importance, because it is this consciousness which is giving existence to this Mahat Tattva, therefore it is more important. Pratyagatmatvat, this consciousness we experience as our innermost entity. Every other layer is outer to us. So therefore, being the inner essence, it is higher. Karanatvat. So this consciousness is the very cause of Mahat Tattva, because it gives existence to Mahat Tattva. So for this reason, consciousness is the cause. Niyamakatvat, it is a controller. Being the giver of existence, being the very substratum upon which Mahat Tattva exists. So the controller of Mahat Tattva is consciousness. So therefore it is higher. So Mahatah Param. So that is why this self is difficult to know. It has no properties. It is very, very subtle. It is the innermost essence. So in order to experience it, we have to go deep within ourselves. But what happens once we gain this self? So it is said, Mrityu Mukhat Pramuchyate. We become free from the jaws of death. So what is death? So here Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, Avidya Kama Karma Lakshanat. Mrityu Mukhat means avidya kama karma lakshanat, characterized by avidya kama karma. So what is death? It is not just dropping the body. So becoming free from death means becoming free from this avidya kama karma. So from ignorance, we think we are the jivatmas. And when we know ourselves to be the jivatma, naturally desires are there, karma is there. And with desires, we do karma, actions. From karma comes karma phala. And as a result of karma phala, we get worlds and different bodies, etc. Again we have desires, again we do karma, again karma phala. Now this is a cycle. So how many times do we die? We keep on dying. So this is called mrityu mukham. It is not one death, it is infinite death. It is continuous death. It is unending death. So this cycle, avidya kama karma, is unending, therefore we die continuously. In fact, we can say death has become our nature, dying again and again. Born again and again, dying again and again. And this death is a very painful thing, that is why mrityu term is used. Now what happens when we gain knowledge? The moment the knowledge is gained, avidya is gone. We come to know ourselves as pure consciousness. Infinite bliss is the nature of consciousness. So then what happens? We have reached the destination. Jivatma has reached Paramatma. What is the nature of Paramatma? Satchidananda is the nature. So what happens when we reach to this ultimate truth? There is no more any desires, no more any karma. So no desires means no karma. No karma means no karma phala. No karma phala means no rebirth. And thus, this is true freedom from death. Freedom from this vicious cycle is called freedom from death. So now an interesting thing is, whenever we are desiring result, what are we desiring? We are unfortunately, unconsciously, we are desiring death. Whenever we are desiring egoistic joys and pleasures, what are we desiring? Unconsciously, unfortunately, we are desiring death. Whenever we are desiring name, fame, power, position, what are we desiring? We are desiring death. Whenever we are ignoring spiritual knowledge, what are we desiring? We are desiring death. Now this is called as mrityu mukham. We are entering into the jaws of death again and again by becoming careless about this spiritual knowledge. That is why Shruti Mata is telling, Uttishtata Jagrata, enough! Put an end to this suffering. Don't die again and again. Put an end. Put an end by gaining this knowledge. So that's why Nichaya, knowing. Nichaya means knowing. So what is the most important thing? Knowing is the most important thing. Knowing what? Knowing one's own self. So this knowing is this journey. So this journey is from ignorance to knowledge, from avidya to vidya. And once knowing becomes perfect, journey also ends. Now really speaking, this Valli and this chapter ends here. Now there are two more verses. These two verses are nothing but Phalashruti. Phalashruti means what happens to a person who practices this knowledge, who chants these mantras, who studies it, etc. So Phalashruti is given. So let us chant verse number 16, page number 186. नाचिकेतमुपाख्यानं मृत्युप्रोक्तं सनातनम् उक्त्वा श्रुत्वा च मेधावी ब्रह्मलोके महीयते नाचिकेतमुपाख्यानं mrityu proktam sanatanam uktva shrutva cha medhavi brahmaloke mahiyate. Yes, this upakhyanam, this story, this anecdote, this teaching, which is Sanatanam, which is eternal. Why is it eternal? Because it is in the Vedas. Vedas are eternal, so whatever is there in the Vedas are also eternal, which is Sanatanam. Now, this teaching is given by whom? Mrityu Proktam. So, told by Lord Death. The teacher is Lord Death. To whom it has been given? Nachiketam. So, this knowledge has been given to Nachiketa. So, this teaching, anyone who is a Medhavi, Medhavi means an intelligent one, who has Medha is called Medhavi. Medha also means memory power. Medha means intelligent. So, Medhavi means the intelligent one. What he should do? Shrutva, having listened to it, listen to this teaching. So, he has done Shravanam from an Acharya, from a teacher. And then Uktva, having spoken. Uktva means what? Now he has listened to it, now he is teaching it to others. So the one who has listened to it and one who teaches it to others, gives it to others, shares it with others, what happens to him? Brahmaloke mahiyate. He is worshipped, he is glorified in Brahmaloka. So this is the glory of this teaching. So the one who listens to it and the one who shares it with others, such a person reaches Brahmaloka and is glorified in Brahmaloka, is worshipped in Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is the highest loka. Now Brahmaloka can have two meanings here. It can mean the world of Brahmaji, the Satyaloka, Brahmaloka, the highest world. That is one meaning. But Bhagavan Shankaracharya says there can be another meaning also, because loka means experience. Lokyate anubhuyate iti loka. That which is experienced is called loka. So Brahman is something which we can experience. What is the experience of Brahman? Satchit Ananda is the experience of Brahman. Existence, consciousness, bliss is the experience of Brahman. So therefore Brahma eva loka. Since Brahman can be experienced, so this experience of Brahman is called Brahmaloka. So those people who study this teaching and practice it sincerely, such a Medhavi, what happens to him? He becomes Brahman, he experiences Brahman. Brahmavit Brahmaiva bhavati. This is the meaning. So both the meanings are right. If you are sincere student, then definitely you become liberated by becoming one with Brahman. Even if you have not attained liberation, no problem. This knowledge, if you sincerely practice, and if you have not reached the highest, don't worry, it will take you to the higher worlds. That is the point here. Swarga, the higher worlds, it can take you. So nothing is wasted. That is the point. Nothing is wasted. As Bhagavad Gita also says the same thing. Every effort is rewarded in this path. That is the point. Now here a very interesting point is, see the terms used. What are the qualifications? What is the sadhana to be done in this path? So three terms are used: Medhavi, Shrutva, Uktva. Three terms are used. So he should have Medha. Shrutva, he must have done Shravanam. Uktva, he must teach it to others, spread this to others, share it with others. So such a person gains it. Now interestingly, if you see in the first chapter, second only 23rd verse, if you remember, what is said there? Nayamatma pravachanena labhyah na medhaya, na bahuna shrutena. What is said there? Na ayam atma labhya. This self cannot be gained by pravachana, by medha and by shravana. Three terms are used there: pravachana, medha and shravana. These very three terms are used here also. Pravachana means uktva. Pravachana means talking. Uktva, speaking, giving discourse. Medha. So here medhavi is there. Bahuna shrutena. Here shrutva is there. You see, the very same three terms are used here, saying that by doing this you attain. In the earlier verse, in the earlier valli, these very same three terms are used, and it is said nalabhyaha. It is not available through these means. In the same Upanishad, you can see contradiction. Now what actually means here is, so if you see there, nayamatma pravachanena labhyaha, na medhaya na bahuna shrutena, yamaivesha vrunute tena labhyaha, it is said. So what is emphasized there is that person who has not made the self the highest priority of life. He is not desiring it from the depth of his heart. He doesn't sincerely seek it. For such a person, even the best sadhanas like Shravanam, Pravachana, etc. is not going to help. This is the point. The point is not to mention that these three sadhanas are inefficient. No, the point which the Shruti Mata has to emphasize is that even the best sadhanas of high intelligence, of listening, of giving discourses, etc., even the best sadhanas become ineffective if that person is not truly desiring the knowledge of the self. This is the point. So in the Shruti itself we find that these sadhanas are given very high importance. So, study of the scriptures, listening to the scriptures, contemplation upon the scriptures, they are all effective sadhanas. You have to keep this in mind. Because very many times we hear people saying that, what is the use of all this study, etc. What is important is japa, what is important is bhajan, etc., etc. People tend to, consider these sadhanas as inferior. Now here Shruti Mata herself is saying that these sadhanas are very effective. So this point has to be understood. Right. So such a person attains the experience of Brahman, such a person is liberated. So all this contemplation, meditation, study, listening, they are all very effective. Lot of clarity comes, and when there is clarity, there is conviction, and when there is conviction and clarity, that intellect sincerely strives to gain that highest knowledge. Where there is conviction and clarity, there is sincerity from the depth of the heart to gain that knowledge. So all these studies are very important. And that is why in Chinmaya mission, the spread of this knowledge is given so much of importance. Now, regarding giving this knowledge to others. So, uktva it is said here, giving it to others, speaking about it. So here Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, to whom? Brahmanebhyaha. This knowledge is something to be given only to Brahmanas. Now here we have to understand, Brahmana means a noble person, a cultured person. Not the jati, not the caste, but a qualified person. Now who is a qualified person to listen to the scriptures? So beautifully in the 18th chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita. So in the 18th chapter, Bhagavan says, idam te na tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana न च शुश्रूषवे वाच्यं न च मां योऽभ्यसूयति. Bhagavan says, these four people you should not give this knowledge. Who are they? Natapaskaya, abhaktaya, ashushrooshave, yaha abhyasuyati. Natapaskaya means the one who has no tapas in his life, no austerity in his life. Means what? Means a person who is a sensuous person, indulgent person, extroverted person, materialistic person who has no discipline or purity in his life, earns wealth through all illegal immoral means, indulges in on pleasures, no value of truth, doesn't walk the path of righteousness. Such a person who has absolutely no tapas, austerity in his life, to such a person don't give this knowledge. Means what? Give this knowledge to a person who walks the path of righteousness, of goodness, does some spiritual sadhana, etc. Then the second one is na abhaktaya. That person who has no shraddha bhakti, no devotion, no faith in the scriptures, in the teachers, no faith in spirituality. So such a person who has no faith, don't give this knowledge. Means what? A person who has faith, give this knowledge. Nacha shushrooshave. Those people who don't want to listen to it. Now there are people who are allergic to spirituality. They don't want to listen to it. So if they don't want to listen, don't force this knowledge upon them. A person who has hunger, only he will value food. In the same way, a person who has the spiritual hunger, only such a person will value spiritual knowledge. Many times we try to force it upon others just because we love them, they are our near and dear ones. We value this knowledge, therefore we force it upon others. What happens then? What happens is our relationship then gets spoiled. You try to force this knowledge upon others, that person will start avoiding you. So therefore, don't do that. Means what? The other way is, anyone who is interested in this knowledge, please give this knowledge to them. And the fourth one is, nachamam abhyasuyati. Those people who find fault with Bhagavan Krishna. Those who find fault with the spiritual teaching. So people who find fault, no, they are also listening, but they are listening with a different intention. The intention is to find fault and discourage people from walking the path of spirituality. Now such people are also there. They listen not to learn, they listen to criticize. To give some few examples, sometimes they say, this Krishna is speaking of non-violence, but what is he asking Arjuna to do? He is asking Arjuna to fight the war. You see, he is a hypocrite. Teaches one thing, but does something else only. This Krishna, he says, one among the doors of hell is kama, lust, but what is his life full of? He is running after gopis and he has married some 16,000 ladies. While teaching, he says, kama is dangerous, give it up. But what is he doing? Stealing the clothes of all these gopis, etc. So see the way, see the perverted way in which they analyze the whole thing. In Bhagavad Gita, he is glorifying humility, amanitvam, etc. But throughout Bhagavad Gita, he is glorifying himself. Entire chapter is dedicated to his glorification. Vishwarupa Darshanam. See, on one side he is preaching humility, on the other side he is glorifying himself. On one side he says, I have come to do dharma samsthapana. He loves dharma, etc. he says, but throughout the war, what has he done? He has done only adharma. He has killed everyone through adharma only. Karna, Jayadratha, Duryodhana, all of them have been killed through adharma. Drona, Bhishma. And the whole of Bhagavad Gita, you think it is possible that the whole teaching can be given? 700 verses in the battlefield. Minimum 2 hours it will take. You mean to say others are just waiting and watching? So this is an impossible thing. And what kind of philosophy is this? Performing action without expecting result. Is it possible to perform action without results? Results are the real inspiration. So therefore it's an impractical philosophy. So impractical philosophy, impossible story, and full of hypocrisy. So this teaching is not worth. Now such people you will find in the society. So warning is given, don't give this knowledge to them. See, one thing is, we have the right to ask questions, right? But we have to ask questions with an open mind, with Shraddha Bhakti. Whatever allegations are there, we must have answers to them. A perfect convincing answers, convincing for ourselves. So these people who find fault, don't give this knowledge to them. Put in another words, those people who are open-minded, who have faith, who have devotion, who are living a righteous life, definitely we must give this knowledge to them. So therefore Bhagavan say, Ya imam paramam guhyam mad bhakteshvabhidhasyate bhaktim mai param krutva mame vaishyatya samshayam. Those people who give this knowledge to my devotees, with full of devotion, a person who gives this knowledge. So giving this knowledge is not with arrogance, but with devotion unto the Lord. When this knowledge is given, Bhagavan says such a person definitely reaches me. Mameva yeshati asamshayam, no doubt about it. Nacha tasman manushyeshu kaschin me priyakrittamah bhavita nacha me tasmat anyaf priyataro bhuvi. Bhagavan says such a person is dearest to me who give this knowledge to others, because he is doing my job. My job is dharma samsthapana, and this knowledge is the real means of doing dharma samsthapana. So anyone who gives this knowledge, such a person is very, very dear to me, Bhagavan says. Adhyeshate chaya imam dharmyam samvadamavayoho jnana yajnena tenaham ishtasyamiti me matihi. So those people who study this, they may not be teaching, but they study it wholeheartedly. So Bhagavan says this is a worship unto me. Jnana yajnena tenaham ishtasyam. I consider this as a worship of mine. And what is this worship? It is the worship of Jnana Yajna. So when we study the scriptures also, it is a kind of puja that is happening. We are worshipping the Lord by studying His teachings. So Bhagavan is so happy with those people who study this, who spread this. Even those people who casually listen. Now see what is said here. Said here means it is, all these are said in 18th chapter. Last chapter in Bhagavad Gita. Shraddhavananasuyascha shrunuyadapi yo naraha sopi muktashubhan lokan prapnuyat punya karmanam. So there it is said, Shraddhavan, those people who have faith. Anasuyaha, those who don't find fault. They may not be very serious seekers, etc., but they just listen. With faith they listen. They don't find fault. They have this Shraddha Bhakti. Even they, what will happen to them? Shubhan Lokan, Punya Karmanam Lokan. They go to these auspicious higher worlds, the worlds of the meritorious ones. So even listening to it casually has its effect. Yes. So this is the glory of this knowledge. So same way we have to understand Uktva Shrutvata Medhavi. So at all levels, even a casual listener is benefited from this knowledge. Then what to talk of those who sincerely study it and practice it. The same Falashruti continues, verse number 17, page number 188. Ya imam paramam guhyam shravayed brahma samsadi prayatah shraddhakaleva tadanantyaya kalpate tadanantyaya kalpata iti. Ya imam paramam guhyam shravayed brahma samsadi prayatah shraddhakaleva tadanantyaya kalpate tadanantyaya kalpata iti. So this is the last verse of this valli. Yaha, the one, prayataha, after having purified, imam paramam guhyam, this great secret, shravayet, gets it recited, chanted. Where? Brahma samsadi, in the assembly of the Brahmanas, in the assembly of the noble ones, the cultured ones. Or shraddha kaleva, or during the time of ceremonies for the dead, shraddha kala. During that time, if you get it recited or chanted, even that, tad anantyaya kalpate, it has lot of results. It has infinite results, anantyaya. It has eternal results. It is going to bless that person. Whoever is dead, it is going to bless that person also. So this, such a ritual is there. So when people are after this Shraddha Kala ceremony, after when they have food, so during food, if you can chant it, recite it, and make everyone listen. So this chanting itself, mere chanting, has got tremendous results. That is what is being said. So by all means, whether it is study or listening or teaching or merely chanting, all these have great results. This is the point. So let us practice all these teachings as best as we can. So these are the verses to inspire us to study the scriptures. Right. So it is said, iti Kathopanishadi prathama adhyaye tritiya valli. Thus, this third valli of the first chapter concludes. So now we enter into the second chapter. In the second chapter also there are 3 vallis. So till now we have seen the 3 vallis of the first chapter. Now we will see the 3 vallis of the second chapter. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet, asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi om.